So, welcome to the Denver Drum Society. Real quick, how many of you have been to a Denver Drum Society meeting? A few, okay. So, Denver Drum Society, in a nutshell, this was something I started in 2018 with a guy named Michael McKee, and it was inspired by my experience as a new drummer in New York City who didn't know anyone and wanted to figure out where all the cool people were and what to do. And there was this event every Wednesday at a bar in Midtown called Wacky Wednesday, and it was all the Broadway drummers after they finished their shows just converging on this bar, and we would drink until like 1 or 2 a.m. and all of my gigs and all of my connections and every dollar I made in New York came from attending those hangs. And there was no ulterior motive to those hangs. There was no education, there was no clinic, it was just drummers drinking. So I moved to Denver and bought the store and wanted to do something like that, and I hooked up with Michael McKee, and his concept was, okay, let's do that, but let's have an educational element to every single hang. And so this is what the Denver Drum Society is. It starts off with a 30-minute to an hour-long presentation, and then we just have beers and we hang out and we just talk drums and enjoy each other's company for a little while. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We used to do this thing religiously, like every 2 weeks on the dot. So we clocked like 80 events in the first couple of years that we did this, and then the pandemic happened and we stopped doing it. We did it online a little bit, and that was kind of like, we missed the connection, so we stopped altogether. And here we are 3.5 years later doing our first Denver Drum Society since 2020. So thank you for coming. And if you enjoy yourself tonight, the Denver Drum Society has a Facebook group. That's really the only place, aside from like the Rupp's Instagram channels, where a lot of you probably heard about this, where you see Denver Drum Society events coming up and everything. So if you're on Facebook, look up Denver Drum Society. So first of all, before we start, because this is our educational element of the evening, I'm going to educate everyone real quick, or maybe only 1 or 2 of you. Cirque du Soleil is not pronounced Circus Olay. It's French. There's a de in there. It's separated, and this has been driving me insane for years and years. And this is the first time I've had to correct more than one person at once. Not that any of you needed correcting, but that's how you pronounce it. And I am curious, how many people here have actually seen a Cirque show in your lifetime, just in general? Okay. And how many of you guys have seen Kuza, the show that's here in town right now? Did you go during this run?
No, so the last time the
last tour.
Last tour.
Nice, nice. Was it awesome?
It was pretty impressive.
Cool.
You saw Kuza?
Yeah.
Not here in Denver?
Not here in Denver. No, it was good.
Sweet. Okay. So it's only here through August 13th. They're on their last week. So if you guys enjoy yourselves tonight, this is a show that I just found out from Ed tonight is actually written by a drummer, and so it heavily features a drummer. There's a drum feature in the show, so you guys would really enjoy that, I'm sure. So yeah, after 3.5 years, I couldn't ask for a better person to kick off Denver Drum Society again for us. This is Bahar. Is from Tel Aviv, and he's been with Kuza, the Cirque show, since 2019. He's actually the first Israeli drummer ever to work with Cirque du Soleil as a company. And if that wasn't cool enough for you, he also happens to be a Guinness Book of World Records holder for the most
drumstick spins
in 1 minute on one hand, right? And not the lazy
No,
kind, but
like
like
one
in
hand.
between fingers and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna have to show us that, obviously.
That was close.
Anyway, we'll do this for about an hour or so, and then just hang out and enjoy each other's company. Please give a welcome to Ian Bahar.
All right. Hello. Join us. So, how are you all doing? Good.
Excited.
Yeah. Me too. Small disclaimer. This is my first ever drum clinic that I've never done this before. So it's a really a great opportunity for me to do this. I'm very excited. A little bit nervous, but it's okay. It's natural. You seem like cool guys. You won't eat me, right? You have easy questions. No, I'm kidding. So I've prepared a few things that I wanted to talk about, but I think I'm going to start off with a little bit of icebreaker just to play a little bit for you guys, and then I'm going to talk about a little bit of my life, my experience as a drummer, how I got to Cirque du Soleil, and then I'm going to show some technique stuff that I like doing, some warm-up stuff that I do every day. And we do some Q&A after. But feel free if you ever have questions during when I talk or when I play, feel free. This is an open conversation. Then at the end I'll do like a free drum solo, whatever happens happens. And yeah, let's start. Okay. All right. Might use your help a little bit. So if you can do this. Cool. All right, I have a sip of water. All right, so let's start from the beginning. I was born in Israel, 1992. Have anyone been to Israel? Yeah, nice. When? Like,
I was 13, so 1995.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
Just for vacation or?
Bar mitzvah.
Bar mitzvah?
Yeah.
Ah, you're Jewish. Nice, cool. Shalom. Yeah, so I was born in next to Tel Aviv in a pretty small city called Holon. And I was very, very lucky to be raised in a very musical house. My father is a pianist and a musical producer. So I basically grew up in a recording studio my entire life, and still is. My father's studio is been working still to this day. So my childhood memories are still exist. You know, it's like it never left the studio. It's still there. And my mom is very, very, very musical. I always say she knows more songs than Spotify. Every song that comes up the radio, she knows it. So I was very fortunate to be raised in a very, very supportive and musical house. I never really decided that I wanted to be a drummer. I basically grabbed a pair of sticks even before I was talking or walking, and playing the drums is much easier than speaking for me. You know, it's like the best way I can express myself, and I'm sure some of you can relate to that. Yeah. I think I was maybe 2 or 3 years old when I grabbed a pair of sticks and just started playing drums. And again, my father, he had a recording studio, and he had a drums in the house. So I was very fortunate to have drums in such an early age. You know, it's not a day-to-day thing when you want to play drums, you have to go to a school, and then when you practice home, you not necessarily have a drum set. You start on a pillow or a practice pad. You know, so I was very, very fortunate. And then my father is playing a lot of classical music, so I basically grew up listening to classical music a lot. That's my greatest passion in life, classical music. So a few years ago, in 2015, we actually released an album together, which called Classical Storm, where we take classical pieces and we just orchestrated it to just piano and drums. So it'd be cool if you guys want to check it out. Yeah, so I started playing at a very early age. Then I moved to Tel Aviv when I was, I think, 8 or 9 years old. Already when I was 9, my father was the musical producer for, it's like we call it the Maccabiab, which is like the opening of the Olympics, kind of, in Israel. And he took me to be the singer, which I don't sing, but he decided he decided that, yeah, you're gonna sing in the opening in front of 30,000 people. And I didn't know, I didn't know what's going to happen. All I remember I remember like as a kid, like having one intensive week of rehearsals, and all I remember, which is being surrounded by 200 girl dancers, which I loved. They loved it. It was divine. I was introduced into the music industry at a very early age, and I think at a very early age I also started playing the drums, not just in my dad's recording studio. I started playing with people when I was probably 14 years old. I think I had my first gig. When I was 13, for my bar mitzvah, I got my first drums set, which was a Gretsch Catalina Birch, which I still have to this day. And I just remember all my life was about drums. I didn't have social life. I didn't want to hang out after school playing soccer. It wasn't my thing. My thing was just finishing school time, just going back to my house, just banging the drums. And that still is. It still is. You know, we try to keep that excitement all the time. So basically, I started playing at around 14 professionally. You know, I think for my first ever gig, I got like maybe $50, which was so much at that time, because I could buy a cymbal or a pair of shoes or something. So it was very big. It felt like I was doing something right, you know, like I was practicing, and then I got a job, and then I got paid, and it felt really good because I saw some results to all my hours that I put in on the drums. So that was basically what happens until I was in high school. For my high school, I tried to go, all my friends, we were going to be in this really prestigious music school in Tel Aviv. So we were all auditioning to that school. And all my friends got accepted except me, because my grades weren't good enough, you know? Which was very, very difficult at that time because I didn't have many friends at that time. And then that meant that they're all going to go to that school except me, and I'm going to a new school, not knowing anyone, and there's not a music major there, you know, it was just plain studies. But eventually it turned out for the best because I was able to just focus on my studies, and I had so much free time after school. Unlike my friends, they didn't have so much free time. So I was able to play and practice and perform much more than they did actually. And doing stuff that I actually enjoy doing, because when I was talking with them from time to time, they were doing either jazz or classic, and they didn't like jazz or classic. So I felt like I was in the right place in the right time for me. So I finished my high school, and then I don't know if you guys know, but in Israel, you finish your high school, you go to the army. Where here you go to college or university, depends where you are. And in Israel, they do tests to see like how are you physically and mentally, and you get the grade. You know, like the highest grade you can get to be a soldier is 19.7, and the lowest one is 21. So that means you're unfit for serving. And I was 97, and that meant automatically, okay, you're going to be a fighter. But I didn't want to do that. I want to keep drumming. And it was very hard because the army, you know, it's for that, you know, you have to protect your country and stand and guard every night, and it's not fun, but it's obligatory in Israel. But with my father's connections, he was able to get me an audition to the IDF orchestra, the marching band of the Israeli Defense Force. And I went there for the audition. They gave me like a sight reading page, then they asked me a few questions, and maybe a month later I got a letter that they accepted me, which was crazy because they only have one person a year they can accept with a 97 profile. So I was so freaking lucky to get that spot, because if I would not get that spot, I would probably just not serve at all. And people don't see that in a good way in Israel, you know? Like everyone serves, why shouldn't you? Like, oh, you just want to play drums? Okay. It's okay. But I did get that chance. And I served as a drummer in the IDF orchestra. So what happens is basically boys are supposed to serve 3 years, and girls supposed to serve 2 years. And I ended up serving only 2 years because I had an accident. And that's where my life changes. One specific day, April 18 in 2012, 11 years ago, a little bit over 11 years ago. I won't get into the details because that's a different subject, but long story short, I had an accident a year and a half into my service, and 6 months later I got signed off from the service after 2 years with PTSD. And basically my life completely changed from that moment on. The Eden, the me before that day was very closed, not social. All I cared about were the drums. I didn't care about anything else really. And the me after that day was completely different in every single way. Because the experience I've had was a life-threatening experience. So my perspective for life completely changed. So I basically felt like I was reborn in a way. I basically discovered life in a new way. And from that day on, I decided I want to live life to the fullest, because we never know when's our time's up, you know. And I started just facing my fears. That's what I did. I had so many fears. Some are funny, some are not. You know, like roller coaster. I never did that before. So I went to do an entire park of roller coasters in Six Flags in Los Angeles by myself, sitting in the front row in every ride. You know, that's how I faced that fear. And I started realizing a lot of things about myself, about facing my fears, and all that. I'm still playing drums. I'm a freelance musician, just progressing in my professional career, just playing with anyone I could find. And basically, yeah, just facing my fears, playing with anyone I could, traveling the world. Even before I joined Cirque, I was already maybe around 30 countries, playing all over the place with different bands, different music genres, different artists. And that's how I got into Cirque, basically. It's not the only thing, but the thing is that before the accident, I was never able to imagine something big as playing with Cirque du Soleil. It was only after my service that I decided I want to be a drummer in the highest level I could find, you know. And I was introduced to Cirque du Soleil when I was already 8 years old. My father got a DVD of the show Kidam, and I remember myself sitting in the living room just watching Kidam, and I was mind blown by the music, by the creativity, by the acrobatics, and I never would have imagined that one day I would be there. When I was 14, I traveled with my mom to Netherlands to see Alegria live. That's a different Cirque du Soleil show. And that was the first time I've seen Cirque du Soleil live, when I was 14. And that was unforgettable evening for me. I remember one thing from the whole 2 weeks in Netherlands. I only remember one thing from this Alegria show was the moment when I was sitting in the house and there was music of wind and there was a lot of confetti flying towards us, and that was like a moment of, I don't have the words to explain it. Anyway, jumping forward a decade, when I was 23, Kidam came to Tel Aviv. And through a mutual friend, the drummer, his name was Andre Boyd. Sick drummer, amazing. Anyone knows him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Amazing drummer. So our mutual friend, told me, hey, you should meet up with my friend, and maybe, if you could, maybe help him set up a masterclass in Tel Aviv. So, wow, really? Yeah, of course. So we talked a little bit on Facebook. Super nice guy. I helped him set up a masterclass. It was very, very fun. And then, as a thank you, he invited me to see Kidam with a backstage tour. I was sitting next to the stage management the whole show. And then, before or after the show, I think, he showed me his drums. And it was a huge kit with a monitor and the in-ears and the console and the SPDSX and so many cymbals, all the kind of cymbals. All the floor was packed with like the wood from the sticks, and that was the moment when I saw a Cirque du Soleil show from the drummer's point of view. That was the moment I told myself, okay, one day I'll be there. So that was the moment, and until I actually got an audition and a job offer and got accepted, it took me 4 years of auditioning, which was really, really hard, because I found out that many people have a lot of skepticism, a lot of people that I cared about, like my loved ones, many had a lot of skepticism, like they didn't believe in me, and every time I got an audition and got a no, it was hard, but that didn't stop me from continuing on to the next thing or waiting for the next call to the next audition. That gave me actually the fuel and motivation to be better, to be better, because it's an endless road. What we do as drummers and everything in life, we always strive to be better. Everything good? You guys have questions? Okay. So I got the job for Kuza when that was the summer of 2019, and it was amazing. You know why? Because the tour plan they had was 6 months in Spain, 2 months in France, and then Tel Aviv, my hometown, which is super rare because it's not, Cirque du Soleil doesn't go to Israel every year. The Kidam show that came to Tel Aviv was Arena, and Kuza is a big top, it's like the big tent, and that would be the first time a big tent, a big top show of Cirque will come to Israel, because all the previous shows, arena shows. So I was like, I didn't believe it that I got that job offer. I remember I got that message Friday night, and then they told me, don't tell anyone because you still need to get that official email Sunday morning. So I was with that, I had that in my stomach for 2 nights. Didn't tell not my girlfriend, not my parents, because I was still like unsure if it's official or not. So, but then the email came, I was shocked, like watching just the email, just looking at my computer screen, seeing Cirque du Soleil job offer for Eden Bahar, and then seeing the tour plan and seeing the logo is in the signature. It's like, what? Unbelievable.
Often did you look at it on those 2 days?
I took a video, and you can hear me scream when I signed the contract. It's crazy. So the tour plan was Spain, France, Tel Aviv, and then we were about to go to Belgium and Switzerland for the end of 2019 and the summer of 2020. But big but, you all know what happened in March of 2020. So basically we just finished 6 months in Spain and we just moved to France for a few days where we got sent home. And it was very, very, very difficult because I think COVID was hard for many people, you know. I don't, but getting the dream job of your life and then going with that show to your hometown, and it was supposed to be in the summer of 2020, and my whole family already got 3 full rows of the shows because I was also having my birthday, so they got the tickets in my birthday, June 12th. So I was heartbroken when we canceled the tour, really heartbroken. But I felt really confident that we're going to come back. During the COVID time, I was getting some rumors, you know, because of a bunch of cirque shows didn't relaunch even, they closed a lot of shows. So I was really unsure if I ever going to be called back even. But I did get the call back, and I was really, really surprised because I have other friends from Israel working in cirque, and they did not get called back after COVID. So I felt really, really lucky. You need to have a lot of luck in this game, in music business. Like you can do. I remember seeing a few auditions for drummers, and I couldn't even sign up for the audition because they had so specific. What's the word? Like specific requirements. Thank you. Like you need to be 1.80 centimeters high. What can I do? Nothing. So I can't, you know? And even if you play the chart 100% right and you send the videos, the recordings on time, and you know, sometimes you need a lot of luck, and you can do everything right, but still it's a tough game. It's a tough game, but everything happens for a reason. I believe everything happens for a reason. So yeah, COVID happened. We all got sent back home. I think it was a few months into COVID that I'm sure you all heard. There was a big buzz about Cirque du Soleil firing all their employees, and I was yeah, some, yeah. I think it was the summer of 2020, something like that, like 6 months. So it was a very hard day, but I kept going. What kept me busy during COVID is actually when I started working with Cirque, I had a diary. I wrote every day, and I kept writing after, like during COVID, in the first few months, and then I decided to turn that diary into a book, and that's what kept me busy during COVID. I published a book basically about my story, about basically whatever I'm telling you guys about my life before and after the accident and PTSD, and how to basically fulfill your dreams, hopefully without experiencing what I experienced, you know, like that kick in the butt. You don't really need a kick in the butt to pursue your dreams. That's my point that I would like people to take from my book. And basically we got called back for relaunched. It was November of 2021, after a year and a half of COVID, basically. And we got back to Dominican Republic. That's where we started, which is a pretty exotic place. But we were there for 5 months when the restrictions were very, very strict. We had to perform with masks all the time. We had to take 3 COVID tests a week. We had to do a daily check-in every morning that you answer how you feel, how did you sleep, do you have fever? If you take the COVID test, okay, send us a proof photo that it's negative. It was very hard, but it was better than the alternative of being home and not doing this. So it was. I learned a lot from that experience during COVID and during the relaunch, which was very, very. I wouldn't say like struggling, but challenging, maybe. Challenging is the word. And since then, I've been on tour until today, basically. We toured since then in Dominican Republic, Canada, Mexico, United States, and then from here we're going to Calgary and Vancouver until the end of the year. And then next year probably just gonna tour the West Coast of America, just going all through the cities. Yeah, that's about it for my life, I guess, in a nutshell. Right now I'm going to talk about practical real life tips that I wrote for you guys. So I have a few things that's I think is very important for me to mention as in my experience. I don't know how much of you are professional drummers or working drummers or just for fun. Are there any working drummers here? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, cool. So all the others are just playing for fun. So
Striving.
I'll take that. How long have you been playing?
I've been playing for 14 years.
Oh, okay, that's good. Nice. And where do you play?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a professional musician. I'm a singer-songwriter and a drummer. So
Nice.
I split my time
Yeah, in between.
depending on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I've played with a bunch of groups in Denver, a lot of rock groups, pop groups. There's a choir that's called the Voices Rock Choir that I play with
Nice.
as a drummer. And then obviously my solo songwriter stuff. So it's just sort of the solo stuff has come up a lot since COVID started.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
the drumming work has come down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just glad to be still involved.
Well, it's ups and downs. There's time for everything.
Yeah.
That's good.
Still paying the bills, so.
Yeah, you gotta pay the bill. Exactly. Okay, so I'll start with number 1 here. Very important to take care of your ears as drummers. Many drummers, Phil Collins, I don't know any other names right now on top of my head, but drums are loud, and we need to take care of our ears all the time. I always practice with in-ears or earplugs, custom made, because the fit is better and it takes more of the dBs, it takes about 27, 25 dBs down. So it's very, very important for the long term, even not for the long term, if you ever playing even for 1 year, you could get ear damage, and you don't want that for the long term. Whenever you have your kids, you want to hear them, you want to play with them, you want to keep your ears in good shape. Things I really understood while touring and while keeping my physique in good shape is eating well and sleeping well. We do a lot of shows a week. We do anywhere between 8 to 10 shows a week. And when I say a week, I actually mean 5 days because we have 2 days off. So 8 to 10 shows in 5 days takes a lot on your body. You really need to sleep well and eat well. Of course, if you do 5 shows a month, you don't really feel that as much as doing 5 or 8 in a week. But it is important to have good sleep and good food. I actually discovered that, you know, touring so much and going from one hotel room to the other, the pillows are so bad. I have to tour with my own pillow, and that's not rock and roll. But you gotta do it, you know, because you gotta go on stage, and you can't go on stage playing like this. You gotta be this, you gotta be loose. And so, but I tour with my pillow, and I love my pillow. It's I sleep very good. Taking good care of your drums and cymbals. How often do you clean, change heads, shine your cymbals? I don't know. How often do you guys do it?
Depends on how often I play. I mean, I don't play a ton right now, so I'm
Okay.
not in bags
Okay.
in the bedroom.
That's fair. Yeah.
But usually when I was gigging all the time, I wouldn't clean my cymbals very often because I like the muted,
Yeah.
the natural
Yeah, the
muted.
dust really dampens the sound. Yeah.
But the heads, you know, every 5 or 6 months, I would
5,
always
6
change
months.
the top head, and then every 2 or 3 times,
Bottom.
I would change the bottom head.
Cool. Yeah, taking care of our drums or our instrument, whatever instrument you're playing, for me it's everything. You know, it's. Oh, fun fact! Actually, I just remembered. I don't know why I did say it before. These drums, actually, we just got new drums for the show in Kuza. These are the original drums from the creation of the show from 2007. So there is, on the other side, there's actually another kick and a few toms. And these drums are, Alex actually got them. He bought them because we wanted to get rid of it. Unfortunately, we don't have space for 2 kits in the container. But that's just a fun fact about these drums. This is the original Kuza kit that's toured probably more than any other kit in the world for the last 16 plus years. You guys remember the YouTube video? It was probably the first viral video, the drummer who plays Super Mario.
Yeah.
Remember it?
Oh yeah, it's so long ago.
So he was on Kuza.
Oh.
Yeah, and he played that kit too.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot of drummers play that kit. It has a lot of history. But back to taking care of the drums. You know how you drive a car and it's dirty, then you take it to clean it, and then you start driving and you say, wow, it drives better. You know that feeling? Maybe not. I feel it. I feel the same with the drums. You know, the drums are my instrument, and I personally love taking good care of my drums, which means everything. I love all the wing nuts to be the same on all the cymbals, stands, and I love everything to be comfortable as possible, especially with the amount of shows that we're doing. You know, it's all about comfort, and comfort is also, if my drums are clean, I feel more comfortable. You know, it's part of it.
Do you have a tech on the show, or do you do it all yourself?
No, it's all me.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a big kit. I have 3 kits. I have most of the show I play on a V drum actually, which is a hybrid. I have all V-drum kit except my hi-hat, which is acoustic, and I also have a secondary acoustic snare on top of the V-drum snare. I played there most of the show. For the drum solo, I have a huge kit. Well, this was the kit, but two kicks, 26 on 18, 2 kicks. Then I had 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 18, and maybe like 9 cymbals with a huge rack of cymbals. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun, especially the moment that the drum solo is happening is right after the crazy acrobatic act of the show. It's like the highest moment of the show, and the drum solo comes after it, so the energies are so high, and I like to get it higher than that, you know. So you start strong, and then you gotta go stronger. Things I learn a lot from recording sessions is always bring more than you think you're going to need. In recording sessions, it's better to have it and not need it than not need it when you, then not have it when you need it. So whatever you think is appropriate to bring for a recording session, of course it depends what music you're going to play, depends if you have a car, if you're riding the bus, you know, it all depends. But for me, it's very important to be all the time prepared, and that also means being early to all the time. If it's a recording session or a show or a concert or rehearsal or teaching, I'm always early, always. Which I think that's at least how I like to do it. Diversity, playing as many genres or learning as many as possible. Because the more you know, the more options and opportunities are going to appear for you. And I have a short story about that. I think it was 2016. I was playing in a blues band, and we toured in Russia for 3 weeks. And we started the tour. We had one night off before we started in Russia. And we went to see a concert of a Mongolian group. And at that time, I was really into Mongolian music. And I really dug into it and learned the rhythms and two-one throat singing a little bit. And that was just, I mean, for me, I love to learn as much as possible. And at that time, I happened to really listen to a lot of Mongolian music, and I really felt really lucky to see a live Mongolian group for the first time in Russia. So before the show, we actually sat to have dinner, the band and us, them, and we were a trio. We were just drums, bass, and guitar, and the bass player was also the singer. So the band asked me, "Hey, you want to jam with us for one song?" I said, "Yeah, of course." Why would I say no even? So they started the show, and it was the last, like they invited me on the stage for the encore. And that was a moment I really felt, and we obviously we didn't have any rehearsals, nothing, just go on stage and just feel it, you know. And during when we played, they all three of them looked at me and tell me, "Okay, drum solo." And I was a little bit nervous, but then my mind started to think like, okay, what can I remember right now from all the music that I learned from Mongolia? And I started just playing what I felt was appropriate for the music and what I remembered that would be kind of traditional drumming, because I was playing a set, but Mongolian drums are not like drum sets like these. It's a weird drum which I don't even remember how it's called. But what happened is when I started playing that rhythm, all three of them looked at me at the same time, and our eyes connected, and they gave me like a nod, like this, like they knew I knew what I was doing and what I was playing, you know? Even though we never talked, they by the way, they never even, they don't talk English, nothing. They speak Russian. So we didn't even talk, like we just went on stage together, but we don't need to speak English or Russian or Hebrew or whatever, like we speak language of music, which is the universal language. So when they looked at me, they knew I was familiar with their music culture, with their rhythms, and I felt like, wow, I actually learned something I never needed to learn, but it actually serves me in a situation I would have never imagined to be in my life, right? So it's really important to learn as much as possible, because you never know when it's going to save your ass in a way, you know?
Right.
Because if I was there just playing a James Brown groove and they're playing like Mongolian music, it's not the same.
Right.
It's not the same language, you know? So you get what I mean. And same goes with learning different instruments. For me, obviously I play drums, it's my main instrument, but I also learned many other percussion instruments all over the world. I studied tabla in India, I studied pandero in Brazil, I studied taiko, Japanese taiko, I studied classical percussion, marimba, timpani, xylophone, glockenspiel, and of course I've studied drums with many teachers. I never had one teacher for a long time. I always take like 1 or 2 lessons from each person. I think for me it works better. But learning more instruments actually gives you more opportunities as well, because you can be in a recording session and the producer might tell you, hey, can you play some tambourine or some congas? And you need to know how to play those instruments, because if you don't, you don't. Because it doesn't work. Like, you don't just hit a stick on a conga. It works differently. Every drum works differently. So learning more instruments, percussion instruments, and not only percussion, I also play piano and bass. So learning more instruments can serve you to be a better drummer, a better musician, obviously. You never know when it's going to save your ass. Learning the music that you're playing is very important. Getting to know the artist, their culture, their story, the songs or the album, the lyrics. It's very important to have a connection for me with an artist that I'm going to record with, because that recording will stay there forever, and I want them to feel good about why they picked me, or anyone. So all comes up to people, you know, we all need to make a connection together, especially in music where it's all about feelings and emotions and connections and energy and vibes. And when you go to a recording session or any other professional situation, it's very important, from my experience, to really get to know the artist that you're working with. Yeah. What did I write here? Reading and writing music. Does anyone doesn't read or write music? Don't be shy. It's okay. Pavarotti
Wow.
didn't read.
A little bit.
It's okay. A little bit.
A little bit.
I know it's could be boring. That's the word. But at the end of the day, like I said before, music is a language, and in order to speak that language better, you need to know how to write and read, because only knowing that can bring you so much more options and open so much doors for you. The amount of calls that I got in the morning for a concert in the evening are countless, and that was only, I was able to do that only because they sent me the charts and I read them for a few hours, practiced, and went on the stage. And if I wouldn't know how to read or write, that would have never been possible. I know people who have really good memory, but playing a full show, learning the music in the same day without rehearsals is pretty nuts doing without writing and reading. But I know people who do it. So, I mean, it's not necessary. You can work without knowing that. But the opportunities that you will get from it are countless. Really, really, really important in my opinion. And lastly, no, one before the last. Giving 100% of yourself. Why? Because you never know who is going to sit in the house. You never know who is watching you. It's not easy giving 100% every time you're on the stage, especially when you're doing 8 to 10 shows a week. But that's the learning process for me. But before, when I was before Cirque, giving 100% of myself was very, very, very important. And I'll tell you a short story about it actually. I was playing with the same blues band I toured with in Russia. The singer actually owns a bar in Tel Aviv, which called Mike's Place. It's a very American bar actually. It's like a sports bar with live music and hamburgers. And we were playing a show in his bar, and suddenly, I don't remember, maybe a few days after the concert, I was in the car with my band driving to a show, and suddenly I get a call. I was driving, and I get a call on my phone from Facebook Messenger from a guy I don't know even. And I was most of the time I would just decline, but I was curious, so I told my friends, hey, can you be quiet? I'm going to answer this. And I answer, and this guy on the other line say, hey, what's up? We don't know each other, but I saw you in Mike's Place a few days ago, and I really liked your playing. And actually, my brother is looking for a drummer right now. He has a very famous band in Los Angeles, and they just fired their drummer, and they're looking at drummer in 3 weeks to perform in Saturday Night Live. That was the first thing that he told me. Someone I don't know, right? Never met. I even don't know how he found me on Facebook, but it doesn't matter. So that's a really really good example of what I was talking about, giving 100% of yourself, because I don't know if he would have called if I was giving less than 100%, you know? So you never know who's going to be in the house watching you, basically. And lastly, well, I think I already talked about it, but I'll say it again because why not? The importance of smiling. Yeah. It's connected to what I talked before about making a connection, but in a different way. The energy that you're putting on the stage is very, very profound, but we don't feel it. That's the thing. When we see a show in the house, we feel everything in its entirety. But a lot of the times, the person who actually performs doesn't feel what the observer is feeling, and it's like a magic trick, kind of, you know, when the magician is doing the magic, he knows the secret, you know, so he's not like, he knows the secret, but the guy who sees the magic, he goes, wow, how did you do it, you know? It's kind of the same, and something that I take to the stage every time I go on stage is something my father taught me, actually, and that will be the last thing I will talk about before I do some technique stuff. My father told me, if you want the audience to get excited, you have to get excited. Easy as that. Easy said, not done. But the energy that we have is going to the people that watches us, and it is very, very important to smile, to feel good, to be comfortable with the drums, everything clean, everything works, be early, all the things that I was talking about before. Everything, every little thing is like a piece in the puzzle that you need to, the way I see it, you need to just put it in a place, and then you have a puzzle, basically, you know. So in order to the audience to get excited, you have to get excited, and that's something I take with me every day to the stage. Thank you. Okay. From the time we have left, I will show you a quick warm-up that I do. You guys see my hands, okay? Okay. This is a warm-up by Simon Phillips. Yeah. So it's a 4-bar warm-up. First bar is singles, and it's all 16th notes. First bar singles, second bar doubles, third bar paradiddles, and fourth bar paradiddle, which is a variation of paradiddle. So I'll do it slowly, and also I do it with my feet as well, but I won't now because I usually have a secondary kick, but I didn't put a secondary kick because I don't like it. Okay, so that's a cool warm-up I do. Next, something I really like doing is playing as much as I can with my left hand. And that the way it started is one day I was going back home from a concert and I actually broke my finger on my right hand. So I wanted to keep playing, so I just kept playing with my left hand, and then my left hand became stronger than my right hand. But I integrate that to my day-to-day playing. I always switch my hand from cross stick to open-handed. That is why I have a ride here and here, because I like riding all the time when I play blues, when I shuffle. I try to keep both hands very similar because I don't like one hand to be stronger than the other, basically. Yeah, so my tip is just play as much as you can with your left hand as well, or if you're a lefty, play as much as you can with your right. One thing before the last is something I don't want to say, how do I say it even? It's not something I invented, but it's something I do quite often in my playing. And you can do a lot of variations on it. It's really cool. So it goes like this. It's basically triplets in a four time signature. And it goes like this. There's one triplet set up before the one. So 1, 2, 3. Something cool is instead of doing only 2 hits on the snare, I do 4 or 6. Solo especially. Did you get it, or was it too fast? It was too fast. Okay.
We should
okay.
do a video now.
Yeah. And lastly, I have a. Shut up. I have a little gift for you all. When I was in Mexico City a few months ago, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, I wrote. I called it the killer morning exercise because it really actually kills you. Not actually, but your hands will feel pretty much dead after it. But if you do this in the morning, you're pretty much good for the whole day. So I have 10 copies to give you all. And yeah, that's it, guys.
Ian, how about like a 3-minute drum solo, man?
Yeah, okay. If anyone has any questions, please feel free about anything.
Really quick, will you just break down that sticking? There's 2 left-handed hits right in there when you're doing that.
Yeah.
Do that slow motion real quick.
Yeah. So the sticking goes it's basically the first triplet is kick right left, and then the second triplet is kick left left.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Then you play the 2 with the kick on the right, or any other symbol.
Reminds me of Raining Drums. Do you know that lick? Have you heard of that one?
Raining drums.
Yeah, it's more played with double kick, but it's very similar.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. It's
Yeah,
cool.
it is. Yeah, I like it. I do it quite often.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Any more questions? Yes.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
One is advice for people who grew up being trained on sight reading, and I don't have like that creativity and provision skill very heavy. So I invite you to have that on that. And then also, I'm kind of curious how you persevered during that really critical time where you were getting rejected in the auditions, and it sounded like your close family and friends weren't super supportive either.
Mhm.
So your perspective on that.
Great questions. Thank you. I would say, like, your problem is a good problem, because maybe not even a problem, because you already read sight reading, which is amazing, something that many people wish for. But you're trying to go back, per se, like working on your improvisation and stuff like that, right? My advice would be try to play with more people, and try to think outside of the box, outside of the bar. There's so many, there's endless possibilities, and I know we always get hard on ourselves when we improvise. We always critique ourselves, but we need to give ourselves a break sometimes, especially when it comes to improvising, because there's no right or wrong there. Everything is possible. There's no rules. You make your own rules, right? So play with more people and just try to let go of all everything you know about music, basically, because in sight reading you basically do whatever you are told on the paper. But then, a lot of classical musicians have that. A lot of people from the classical world, they play only from the paper. If they go on stage to a jam session, they don't know what to do. And that's a different part of the industry. But you're trying to open up your mind a little bit, right? So I would say play with more people and loosen up a little bit, like think outside the box. Yeah. And to answer your second question, how I persevered all the negativity, negative answers from auditions and stuff. I just kept going, For me, when I get a no, it doesn't bring me down, it gives me more motivation, right? And that could be something that sticks you out from the others, Obviously, it wasn't easy when my close family and friends didn't believe in me or my dreams, but I think everyone has his own life, right? And you have the power and choice to do what you want to do, right? Because you know what feels good for you, what you want to do with your life. So, of course, it brings us down when someone is not believing in you. But at the end of the day, if we're looking for that acceptance from other people, we are 95% sure we're gonna be let down from them, right? So I would say just be more focused on yourself with whatever is more important for you. And very important is knowing who to share with. What is important to you, you don't need to run and tell everyone, because knowing who to share with, that information is have a big impact on how the consequence will affect you. Does that make sense? Yeah, cool. Any more questions? By the way, thank you, Bernard. This is Bernard. We work together on Kuza, and he's been working with Cirque for how many years?
26, 27.
27 years, and he's the head lighting on the show of Kuza, and he's taking some photos for us. So today, thank you, Bernard.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
What's next for you? I mean, I know you're going to
I have no idea.
continue to tour. Do you have aspirations? I was once in one of my substitute teachers in music school was Greg Bissonette.
Yeah.
And at the time, he was just known as a great jazz drummer out of North Texas State, played with Maynard Ferguson. And I was really surprised when I asked, well, what are your goals?
Yeah.
And he said, I want to be a drummer in a huge rock and roll band.
Yeah.
And 6 months later, he's on the cover of Modern Drummer magazine playing with David Lee Roth. He'd gone to it in yellow spandex suit and with the rock, he was this jazz guy. I was
The
just
whole
curious
shebang.
if you had, that's why I asked this question, because it was just interesting what happened before.
Yeah.
Do you have a goal or an aspiration to do what next?
For now, my goal is to be on tour for the next 4 years. What happens next? I still don't have any clue. I would like to be playing with, I have a few artists that I would like to play with. I really like Bjork. I really like Lenny Kravitz. And I might play Blooming Group a little bit because Cirque bought them.
Oh, really?
So that could be fun and easier process since I'm already in Cirque. And actually the book that I published during COVID, right now I am working on the translation for it for English. So probably in about 3 to 4 months, I will publish my English version of the book. So that also keeps me busy.
What's it called?
In English or in Hebrew?
In English.
In English, it's called Unbeatable. And then there's a secondary line that is very long that I forgot now. A fulfillment story told through a pair of sticks.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's the name. Any other questions? All right, let's play some drums then. How long do we have?
How long do you want?
Let's be careful what you wish for.
We have time for a drum solo real quick and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay. Okay. Oh wow. Okay. Okay. this. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you for listening to me for, I don't know, too long. Yeah, have a beautiful day, man.
More time for Eden Bahar.